Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now on to our second sessions of the day. We've got a fantastic presentation from our gold partner, Infosys Consulting, on how to prepare your people to unlock AI in your business. A massive part of what we've talked about today is obviously people and AI. So I'm very excited to introduce that. Over to Ian Gaylord, partner for Infosys, and Avinash Darissa, senior client partner for Infosys. A round of applause, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. My name is Avinash Darissa. Work for Infosys. Been with the energy industry for the last 25 plus years, working across energy clients, operators, technology companies, partners. Joining me is Ian, 28 years of experience working again in the energy industry. And today we're going to talk about, we're going to have actually a chat about a particular topic where we felt why things are stalling as AI adoption is going ahead, and that was a chosen topic. Some of the thinking that we had was already covered in the earlier sessions today through Menno, Adam, and others. So that's what we're going to talk about. Ian, ready for it?
Yeah, let's go.
So Ian. AI adoption has been there now for the last 2 to 4 years. Most companies have already come from POCs stage to pilots. And especially if you look at the upstream space, we are also seeing not many pilots have been proven at scale. Where do you think is the problem?
I think, and as you described, I think we heard from other panelists this morning around the data and the underlying kind of orchestration. But for me, there's two key factors. One is trust, and the other is people. At the heart of every transformation in a program, I think we talk a lot, and I call it AI eyebrows. So if you mention AI in a meeting, everybody's eyebrows goes up and goes, not again. And so I think, it's not the end of all of that, but trust is the first one. So I look at this group, and I think this every time I see it. A document comes into my inbox, and I say to my colleague, which large language model did that come from? And they say, and from that, I've already shown bias because I've looked at it, and my view, and I'd ask you to all ask yourselves, if you get a document has been produced by AI, do you trust it more? The same as when it was produced by the person, or less? And I think that bias at the moment is less, and that is filtered through all of our organizations constructually around building that trust within the organization that we can drive sustainable, controlled value through AI. And I think then for people, the most important thing for me around that is how do we build the knowledge into those. You can ask many of the tooling and the specialist stuff out there today. The biggest thing that we need to build is actually the reskilling of our knowledge base. We've lost so much knowledge from the oil and gas industry over the last 20 years, and that knowledge is absolutely critical to building the future solutions. And I think, for me, that one of the biggest things I would say for all of it is reshaping the conversation away from using the .ai to actually reshaping that into, and I think one of the panelists mentioned it this morning, for me, it's more about accountability and intent it should be our focus around that, and how you drive change through an organization. Don't make it about the AI, make it about the value.
Thanks, Ian. And where do you think, or what is that one sort of characteristics that you think the operators should lean into in making sure these pilots are proven to success?
So again, one of my other foibles, human in the loop. I'm not a fan of the phrase. I think we broke it down this morning. I think for me, AI is a thread that we pull through our organisations. It's not one winning activity that will solve every problem that's within it. So again, I think for me, the biggest lens I would say to anyone considering the AI projects, as a trait, we tend to focus very much on our output, not our outcome. And I think, and I take this from a technologist point of view, from a technology company where we're talking to many different industries. For me, the key differentiator in this is being able to communicate outcomes over outputs. And we often talk about the success of projects, but actually when you interrogate the people within that, they can very rarely articulate the upside business value. And I think as we move forward, and this is not related to AI, this is related to any transformation, getting the right people in that process that can articulate that value, but also change, because that other key factor is be more comfortable to fail, because we all want to share in the multiple successes. My organisation, I don't go and publicise failings, but actually we learn more from them. And I think we need to become more comfortable with that ability that it's not a failure, it's actually a learning, and that learning can be reshaped but focusing on obviously driving to those outcomes.
Thanks, Ian. Okay, I think we don't have the slide yet, but from our, okay, there you go. From the Infosys playbook, as you can see, there are about 6 human-centered obstacles that we've talked about based on our experience in the industry. There's one particular important thread there, which is around leadership readiness. So what do you mean by that, and where do you think is the leadership readiness is helping in unlocking the AI itself?
And it's one of the most difficult conversations, I think, in the C-suite and below within organizations is, are we ready? Are we really looking to adopt, or are we looking for solutions to, decades-old problems? But one of the key challenges to AI is there is a lot of talk about it from the higher echelons of organizations through all aspects of it. But as I spoke about trust and people, the organization's not ready for that change, and that includes the senior leadership of organizations. This is why we see a proliferation of POCs and very targeted niche, rather than what I would say is more wide-scale organizational change that drives the true value across the organization. Because AI will not only disrupt, the technical side of the world, it disrupts how we do business. It allows us to do more, be more productive. And I think it was said earlier in the day, this is not, I always describe it in the kind of robotic sense where robots were always presented as replacing humans, but actually what you really want in that context is that cobot, which is the integration of the human and technology, which allows that productivity in check. And I think many discussed it today. There is that single decision where we're letting large-scale critical infrastructure be run by machines. Yes, we do that today. I flew up on an aeroplane. That pilot was not flying that plane, right? So I think we're all more comfortable with it. I think one of the things that we need to do in that is, be able to, allow elements of our organization to go onto autopilot. Nobody in this room would question the fact and the use of autopilot and how smooth that makes flights. I think many of our processes can be done that, but there are key critical elements of our business that we should not look to transform. And I think that leadership has to come from the top. And I think, in many organizations to date, it's still a buzzword without a clear strategy. And I think that's, when we developed this playbook, it was really developed around the key questions that we get asked. And the one that I think we always introduce to the room that's often forgotten is reshaping people. So I think that, it's taking the talent, like the people in this room, and allowing them to, reshape with a new way of thinking, but bring their deep domain and capabilities to the thing so that we can further improve it.
Thanks, Ian. And probably I'll add, I think earlier in the session, Mano also talked about work not being redesigned. I think it is one of those things should be an important characteristic to ensure the work is redesigned. The leaders are also following the new ways of working and adopt in their day-to-day basis as well. Okay. So from this playbook, if there's one practical advice, we have to give it back to the leaders here in the room, at least from an upstream perspective. And what would that be to move from ambition to measurable value?
So, and I will keep to the people agenda. For me, similar to most people will be aware of the Amazon strategy. In all decision, they have the empty seat for the customer, and they consider that in every construct. For me, for us, in our industry, and with transformational change, most importantly for me in that is have our staff in our people in that empty chair. We should, in every aspect, every organization should be considering what their future state is, how they're going to develop their people towards that, how you blend, and I think it was talked about earlier as well, how we blend, different generations in the workplace into those decision making, because, many of us, me included, we kind of grew up with technology, but it came after, so we integrated with it, whereas the generations coming through now are actually already technology integrated. They will be the future of our workplace, and we need to look at how we design that. But to answer that, I mean, the key thing is we need to have people at the center of this transformation.
Thanks, Ian. I think that comes to the conclusion. What we would want to ideally conclude is the future of industry is not really determined by which AI platform, which model the industry uses. Rather, in terms of how people could potentially lead and operate in this and make the human transition along with the technology transition together.
Yeah, and thanks. And I think the other thing that we always recognize is AI is just another. Everybody who's been involved in this industry, we've moved from one large scale, if it isn't your ever recurring SAP transformations and the rest, all parts of all organizations are going through enormous change. AI is another part of that change fatigue. We need to deal with that, and a big part of that human-centered bit is making that pull. How do we make people more productive, their life easier, while building that trust that this is not, it's not Terminator time. We're not going to see complete takeover by machines, and we're not. What we're going to do is we're going to see our whole industry evolve to the next level of productivity and growth, and we're going to have that cobot technology that combines with our, with our human thought and our critical thinking that allows us to make those unique decisions that can often be blended in, in a very, with a large language model, you don't get that same level of critical thinking.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.